Operatic countertenor Jakub Joseph Orlinski's career is ascendant. His performances have been heralded at the great opera houses of the world, including the Metropolitan Opera in New York, the Royal Opera House at Covent Garden in London, and the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées in Paris. His recital schedule, from Chile to Poland, Germany to the United States, is filled, and his lyrical and emotionally impactful alto voice has earned Jacob the praise of the public and the critics, who have called him angelic, the real countertenor deal, and a singer who is making the opera relatable and sexy. Behind the applause, he is a committed artist who recounts initially being rejected by top music programs globally, rejected for summer internships, and losing first rounds in many competitive vocal competitions. He says of his beginnings, there was constantly a fight for a place, constantly. What got him through those rough times and sustains him today in the heat of fame and success is focusing on the quality of the art he is making, believing in his journey, and owning and knowing his voice. Hello and welcome to At the Podium with me, Patrick Huey. At the Podium is a multimedia platform where story by story, we explore the resiliency of the human spirit with people who are using their own personal journeys to leave a positive and transformative imprint on our world today. At the Podium holds a space for meaningful conversation, inspiration, and life. Today, I'm thrilled to share the podium with Jakub Jozef Orlinski. Polish countertenor Jakub Jozef Orlinski has established himself as one of the world's leading artists, triumphing on stage, in concert, and on recordings. An exclusive artist on the Warner Arato label, his first recording, Anima Sacra, earned him the prestigious Opus Classic Award for solo vocal recording, while his second album, Face d'Amore, earned him the Recording Solo Recital of the Year at the 2021 International Opera Awards. His sold-out concerts and recitals throughout Europe and the USA have attracted new followers to the art form, and his live performance of Vivaldi's Vedrò con mio diletto, filmed at the Aix-en-Provence Festival, has amassed more than 7 million views online. Television appearances, including the Concert de Paris at the Eiffel Tower and Rebâtir Notre-Dame de Paris, have been broadcast to millions worldwide. In 2019, he was the subject of a major profile in The New Yorker and featured in Polish Vogue. His third album, entitled Anima Eterna, featuring sacred arias and motets from the Baroque era, was released in 2021. He completed his master's degree in vocal performance, studying with Anna Rajewska at the Frederick Chopin University of Music in Warsaw. He also studied with Eitan Peschen and Matthias Rexroth. Mr. Orlinski earned his graduate diploma in 2017 at the Juilliard School, studying with Edith Vines. He was also a recipient of the Fulbright Scholarship in the years 2015 to 2016 and 2016 to 2017. In his spare time, Mr. Orlinski enjoys breakdancing in addition to other styles of dance. He has also been featured in a commercial for the streetwear company Crop, as well as featured as a dancer, model, and acrobat in campaigns for Levi's, Nike, Mercedes-Benz, and MAC Cosmetics. He's also joining us today from his rehearsal hall in Warsaw, Poland, where he is preparing for his musical performances that will take him across the world. Jakub, welcome to At the Podium.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me all the way from Poland while you're preparing to basically hit the road for the next few months, touring and performing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of work, but super fun work, you know. The
Yeah,
the process is always the key and it's the satisfying sort of place.
it's all about the process. It's all about the process. I
Exactly.
wanted to I wanted to start with you. I want to read three quotes about you
Okay.
that I found. The first quote is from Roger Parker of Opera Magazine. And he says of you, Orlinski is the real countertenor deal, one of the best I've heard on the operatic or any other stage. An exceptional legato, no loss of power in the lower reaches, attentive diction, superb histrionic flair. He has, in short, raised the bar decisively for what we can expect of this voice type and this repertory. And then Eitan Peshin, who you worked with at the Frédéric Chopin University School of Music, says of you, he says, one day the director of the program told me, there is this strange, beautiful singer. I don't know if you'll like him. He's a break dancer, but he also wants to sing countertenor. But the voice was absolutely there. And then Andrew Dixon in the New York Times just says simply, he sings like an angel. And he really positions you as this sort of restless soul in the operatic world and what he would call an Instagrammable celebrity. Is this an accurate portrayal of who you are as an artist, a man, as a singer? And I wonder how you maintain your focus with so many accolades, so much applause around you. I mean, someone said that you're making opera sexy. So how do you maintain that focus?
It's always good to hear some good critics, some good reviews, some very nice words, and it's I have to say it's never enough. You know why?
Mm,
Because for those very kind words, there are the same amount of really bad criticism, people who are, I don't know, frustrated, especially nowadays when we have those all of those tools, which is internet and all of those platforms like, I don't know, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, like literally all of the platforms. So as much as there is love, there is also this like sort of hate and I don't know, like people have the strong need of vocalizing their opinions, which is fine. So like you have to be strong. You have to be strong. So that's why like it's very good sometimes to hear something very nice. And as you read those three quotes, it's really warming, and it's nice to hear something like that. But at the same time, you know what keeps you on your like toes and keeps you on the ground is that like sometimes there are very people who write very bad things about you, and you have to be strong to actually kind of do your thing and believe in what you do. And that's the most important thing, to believe in your journey and try to find out what is your journey actually.
mm,
And that's very, very important because at the very beginning, I'm still considering myself very young at the operatic sort of career, but at the same time, I'm a countertenor. So like I already did quite a few things and I'm very happy about them. So I have some sort of experience. And I've learned that at the beginning it was very difficult. I really paid attention to everything what people say, what they write about me, and then it could really make me happy or it could really destroy me, and I could be depressed for like a week or 2 weeks, and I would be like, no, like it makes no sense to continue this because if people receive me in this way that they
mm.
really write it, then it makes no sense. But you know, you cannot please everyone, and you have to learn that in many, many fields that like you are not going to be friends with everybody. You're not going to please everyone. So you have to just be your own self and believe in the journey and learn about yourself the most to kind of also protect yourself from those kind of random comments on internet.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you said you're early in your career as a countertenor. So I'm curious how we got here in the first place, because at first you said you didn't like opera. So
Yes.
how did you end up now exploding in this industry?
I mean, the thing is that like it's sort of like with everything. As much as you don't maybe like something, once you maybe grow a little and try it again or get a little bit more knowledge about it, then you start realizing how actually beautiful detailed, intense, and emotional things are in certain fields. So the same was with me and opera, because I loved classical music, but mostly like this very early classical music, which is like I was singing in an amateur choir. We were singing pieces from Renaissance period. So
Mm.
really, that was the very period that I loved. And then I went to the opera just to listen. My first opera was, I think, Electra, and I
Mm.
didn't like it. Like I was a teenager, and I saw people who were just screaming at me, and that's it. And that was really not fun. And then when I started studying classical music, it was just like, okay, I start to understand there is so much more to actually dig into and understand about music in general, but also classical music, opera. So it is fascinating. And then I I started to really read much more about it. And it got me, I got hooked, you know?
Yeah. No, I, many years ago in another life, I was an actor living in New York and studying there, and ended up through a teacher being a sword fighter and a dancer at the Met in Placido Domingo's Othello with Renee Fleming.
Oh, wow.
And I'd never even been to the opera. And I mean, we grew up here on Sesame Street in America, so I'd heard opera on Sesame Street, but never really paid attention to it. But when I was doing the show in New York at the Met, which is a whole other world, and you know this because you
Yeah.
perform there, but to see both of them, Placido Domingo and Renee Fleming was singing in Desdemona, it completely opened a whole new world to me. And one of the people who'd been at the Met for a long time said, if you love this, go check out Callus in the music store. And so this is back in the days when there were like headphones in the music store. You can go and listen. And I listened
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Callus singing Adriana Lecouvreur, I think was the name of the opera. And I was hooked from then on. Um, when you find your way into it, it's quite beautiful and stunning. And
It is.
yeah,
And also, like, you know, nowadays, like people say opera, but they sometimes mean the whole world of classical music, because classical music is not only opera. It's like, you know, philharmonics, where you have those symphonic concerts, when you have chamber music, when you have recitals, just like a singer and the piano, and then you have those concerts, you know, with arias or oratorio music. So there's so much that you can explore. And actually, some people like that and don't like the other thing, but I have to say that it offers a lot, and classical music in general has something that is really touching the emotional string, and it really, yeah, it really moves, you know. And I think everybody can find their own way to actually get interested or get sort of excited about that. But like, you have to be gentle. I don't like to force people like, you have to listen to this, you have to, like, you know,
yeah.
check that out, because you know it's just nice to give a hand to somebody who is new to that world, and then say, hey, try it, you will like it, or you know.
Right, right. I think it's so funny because I think for a lot of people, Mariah Carey was probably their way into classical music because she's classically trained. So they probably, I mean,
Yeah, that's very true. I believe that like really like really good sort of pop singing, entertaining singing is based on good technique, solid sort of classical technique, because then you really know and understand your voice.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And you even see people like Aretha Franklin going back and studying piano, the basics of music at Juilliard later in her career. So you see people who are true musicians
Mm.
eventually going back to the basics, a lot of
The
classical
basics,
training,
yes.
you know, it's very
This
important.
is very important. It's very important. Even like if you are a professional opera singer, you have to go to your studio, like I will go right after this interview, and just do sometimes the simplest exercises just to maintain your vocal ability, and all of the things that you have to do later on, which are very difficult, virtuosic, and actually demanding, you know, just
Right.
very demanding.
So, for people who are listening, I think we should level set. Can you explain what a countertenor is and what makes it unique amongst the male voices?
I have to say that like people still think that the countertenor voice is quite exotic. I think it's not because there are so many countertenors nowadays. But in general, what it is a technique to sing like as the highest basically male voice type as it is. So countertenor is above the tenor range because we are using the falsetto technique, which simply explained is that we use the edges of the chords because when you sing with your full chest voice, chest register, your whole chords are vibrating. And then as you are using the falsetto technique, it's just the edges of those chords. And that's why it's possible for us men to sing high. And then within the countertenor realm, you have also countertenors who are more altoish, like me. And then you have countertenors who are of a range of a mezzo soprano, and then you have those sopranistas who really sing very high, like really like sopranos. So it's kind of really extraordinary to hear something like that. But there are more and more of us, so that's why I don't feel like it's anymore something very absolutely unique and crazy because there are quite a lot of us and there are a lot of people studying as countertenors because the knowledge about that voice is now spread and the teachers, especially teachers, they just know what they're dealing with because even like those 20 years ago it was not that easy. Like it was not as easy to understand what it is exactly and what it can do. And that's why it's so actually fun to read, like as you read this quote, like we are bringing the new generation. Basically, it's not only me. We are bringing this voice type to the next level because when you look at Alfred Deller, who just started, this countertenor thingy, and then later countertenors, they were singing beautifully, but it was not yet, the voice type was not yet developed as, for example, Franco Fagioli, who has such a huge range and the power of the voice, and David Daniels or Filip Jaruski, Andreas Scholl, like all of those people, like the previous generation, made it open for us to actually perform around the world and do what we love.
Why do you think it's coming back into fashion, the countertenor voice? Because for hundreds of years, it had kind of fallen off the radar, that particular voice type. Why do you think it's making this comeback now?
I think it's there are many factors, but also there is something like interesting about Baroque music in general. So as countertenor voice is sort of associated with the Baroque period, now as opera theaters are performing more and more early music, then of course they want to hire countertenors. And then of course the studies and the sort of research about the historical performance is on the completely next level if you compare it to things that were recorded, for example, 30 years ago, 25 years ago. It's completely different story. So also historical instruments and all that stuff, like it makes all sense and people get excited about that. Like even 20 years ago it was maybe just Messiah during Christmas by Handel, and then some like Matthew Passion by Bach and Johannes Passion and those kind of things. But now people really want to see Baroque operas, Baroque oratorios, and this is really fascinating and super fun. But at the same time, from the other hand, you have the modern time where there are modern composers who are fascinated by the countertenor possibilities because we can sing high, but as you can probably tell, I'm speaking pretty low and my natural voice is bass baritone. So in the modern opera, they can use us as a very sort of fun tool, and we can portray a lot of weird or fun characters just because we can sing high, but at the same time we can also use the low voice, which
Mm.
makes the spectrum of the whole character so big and so expanded. And that's why, like, usually people say, oh, countertenor, so you sing mostly Baroque music or modern contemporary music, which is true and not true because there is so much more in the romantic period that you can choose from and actually sing. But yeah, that's the factor that I think brings us countertenors back on the table because there is so much more Baroque music, but so much more also contemporary music.
Why do you think the Baroque composers, the Handels of the world, put the male heroic figure in this vocal range or a Fach, I think you call it? Because today we associate that with like a tenor or a baritone.
It was sort of considered godlike, you know? There was something out of this world. And that was the feeling. Like they wanted to feel those heroic people, like some kind of characters that came from a different place. And that's why they are so brave, so, I don't know, like so out of this planet that they can save, they can like do things. And it's actually quite extraordinary to think about that because this is how people kind of receive us now, that it's something extraterrestrial. It's something, I don't know, heavenly. As you read the review, like angelic. There are a lot of qualities that are just different, and they make people feel. And this is the major point. Like they make people feel something, and that was very very strong. And of course, it shifted once the Baroque era was done. Of course, you have the era of tenors, which were very heroic, and the basses being very evilish. But that's actually stays along the whole sort of centuries of classical music. But yeah, that's why I think they chose those kind of voice types for those roles.
Why did you choose to be a countertenor? Because you're a baritone, a bass baritone. What made you decide to go this in this particular voice category?
I did sing in amateur choir when I was a young kid, you know. So I was singing as an alto because I was a young boy. Then I shifted to being a soprano for a moment, but then back to alto. And then when you go through puberty as a man, your voice cracks, you know, like there are a lot of changes in your organism, you know. And then when I was probably 16, I think I had that shift and my voice changed, but very kind of smoothly because, you know, there are kids who really struggle with that kind of moment in their lives because the voice cracks and it stays like this for a few months, sometimes even a year when you cannot really speak because it like goes from one place to another and you
Yeah.
cannot do anything about that. You have to just wait. But in my case, it was very smooth and very fast. And from the big choir, we established a small ensemble of 9 men, and we were singing mostly medieval chants for bass, baritone, and tenor. So I was in the middle section. But then we very quickly decided to move on to Renaissance pieces, to perform pieces by those great masters like Thomas Luis da Vittoria, Palestrina, Thomas Tallis, like all of those great, great, great masters. But you needed higher voices. So we made a lottery, and me and my friend we lost that lottery. So we were singing as countertenors, but back then we had no idea that you can call it a countertenor voice, what it means, how it works. We were just experimenting, exploring, and trying to sort of blend in with the other voices because that's how it is when you are in an ensemble. You have to blend in to become one sort of system. Then when we went to some kind of workshops with a proper opera singer, he was like, "Oh my gosh, you're a countertenor." I was like, "Are you trying to offend me? What is this? Like, what's happening?" And then I started reading a little bit more about that, and I was just fascinated. And actually, I found this voice as my natural voice. Like, I treat my countertenor as something, a way that I can really express myself and actually put my whole emotionality into it because it made sense from the very beginning. So I did not change from being a trained baritone or a trained tenor to a countertenor because I thought, oh my gosh, that's going to be a good business. It's
Right.
more like I really, from the very beginning, felt that this is my voice. This is the voice that I can actually show something, express myself, and then later on, I realized that with this voice, I can make people feel, actually sense something, you know,
Mm.
emotional and dig deeper into themselves.
You've said, and I wrote it down, you said that sacred music is not about religion. It is a journey for your soul. And you say that it opens doors that were shut for a long time. And so I wonder, what is it opening for your soul? What is it doing for your soul? And what doors is it opening for you?
The thing is that in my case, it was always something very emotional and very, it just teaches me how to be empathetic, you know? It just opens those doors about like looking at another person and trying to be in their skin and understand them better. And I know it sounds weird, but like those are the feelings sometimes that go through your head when you sing something as beautiful as for example, Stabat Mater by Pergolesi, or I don't know, Vivaldi. It's just sometimes when you realize that somebody few hundred years ago wrote a piece to those beautiful lyrics, and of course they were designed to be biblical and very religious, but the story is so human. It's about a mother who is really in pain because her son is dying, is being crucified and being tortured. And like literally, this is what happens now in so many places in the world. And it just brings you back to this most human emotions and things that make you feel and make you so, yeah, teach you empathy. And but at the same time, it's super beautiful. And that's why like I think that sacred music, even though it's supposed to be, it was designed to be religious, it can teach us a lot about just being good humans, you know?
Hmm. People comment a lot, as we read earlier, on your voice and the timbre and the quality of your voice. They talk about how good your Italian is when you're singing. And I wonder how much of that is natural fluency and how much of it is the technique that you must develop in order to do this.
I'm happy you asked the question because our job as singers and performers is to make people feel that it's all easy and it was all just like this. But it's not, it's a long process, and it's just being in the practice room for hours and hours and hours and practice it because in music, especially as you are a singer, it's not only the sound. You can practice the sound and the projection and all that stuff. And this is very important. But then this is just the one playground you have. Then the another playground you have is the language. So you study different dictions and languages to be able, and if you want to be in the top level, you have to have it tip top. Like it has to be great. So like that's why like I studied Italian diction, I studied French diction, I studied German diction, and you have to have it because if you sing in a language like that, you have to make it as perfect and as sort of native as possible. And then another sort of playground is to be a companion in music with other people. So if I perform with my pianist, this is another yet playground to explore and to make things even more well interpreted, but also fun for us and more musical. So it's a lot of work. Actually, there are so many things to think about. That's why you have to practice in your practice studio. And then when you go on stage, you have to just let it go. You have to go for it because otherwise it makes you crazy, to think about all of those things. That's why you have to be very well prepared. And I'm trying to be as well prepared as possible always.
I've listened a lot to your singing, more so recently because I knew we were going to be talking. One thing that I love about your voice is I feel like even when you're going into your higher registers, into the higher notes, I still feel like the base of the voice is still there. And so it gives it a really whole, one fluid voice sound. How are you doing that?
No, it's actually, my mentor, Ethan Pesson, told me that like it's very good to like it's very good. It's important to have those basics. And if you have the middle register, your comfortable zone, very well prepared, then you have to use that feeling for the lower register and the higher register. And you cannot forget about it. And also it takes hours and hours of switching from difficult places to more comfortable places, and then you just practice it to have it smooth, because for me it was very important to have a very sort of smooth change between registers, and that was very important for me. So that's why like I was practicing it a lot. For example, to switch from head voice to chest voice, I never almost never switch like head voice and chest voice. I always mix it up. So like let's say I have three thirds of like the head voice, and then when I go down I slowly go two-thirds of head voice and then chest voice, and then two-thirds chest voice, one head voice, and then I'm in chest voice. So it's a smooth sort of transition. That's why I try to keep it as my one voice, and that's it. It makes the same sort of timbre, color is stays in the same way, and it's difficult. And I still have to practice that because as human beings, we are changing all the time, and the body is just changing. So you have to actually maintain your preparation all the time, and it's swift, like switches from different parts of your voice. So you have to train that all the time.
Mm. You said earlier that when you are performing, you sort of leave the classroom behind and step into the fun and play of it. And I was watching you sing in Versailles, and you were breakdancing while you were singing.
I did a little bit.
Just a little bit. I loved
Just
it
a
though
little bit.
because I loved it. I think in the way that sort of I don't want to overstate it, but I think what made Callus so amazing was that she did something that nobody else was doing when she came on the scene. She started to emotionally interpret these roles, and I think you're bringing a modernity to the music that makes it very easy for people to enter into it. And you're sort of helping them understand through your physical experience, your physical body, what they may not understand in the German or the Italian or the French that you're singing. So I think it's really fun to watch, but I also think it's very important what you're doing with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not trying to forcefully change the classical world, but at the same time, I like to do things my way, and this is how I feel things, and that's why I do it. So there is place for being super serious and like deliver the music that is very sort of spiritual in a way that like it would not make sense and actually would destroy the music if I would start like walking around and jumping around and making break dancing moves. But there is part of the classical music world like virtuoso operatic arias where you can do those things and it's fun and it has sense, and as long as you have arguments to do things, I believe it's okay, it's good.
I love it. I think, they say that you are, the critics rather say that you are a person who's bringing Gen Z into the opera house. And I think things like that bring people in and then they're hooked because the quality of the work is there. Those types of pieces may be great baits when you're fishing, but when you hook them with the true skill, I think that's when they stay and find it
Yeah,
very meaningful.
that's the important point also, that like the most important is the quality of the art you are making, and that's always the priority for me. So like I can do all of other things, additional stuff, once I feel that I am really delivering the best out of myself. And that's why like I still try to improve myself, I still work a lot to be better and better and better, just so I can deliver to the public the best I can.
Mm.
And then there is a place for fun, but like I wouldn't like to sort of sell myself as a singer who dances and then dance my way into the world of classical music and dance my way like sort of into the to everything, because the most important is singing and delivering the beauty of that art form.
I was reading about you, and at one point you said that you had to overcome what you would describe as a lack of confidence in yourself to have this career, this life that you're having. And I wonder how you found the strength to do that, to sort of move past that lack of confidence to step into this belief of what you're doing now.
To be honest, I still don't know. There are a lot of things that helped me, like my family, friends, and also breaking. I mean, breaking was pretty crucial for my mental health, and it really truly helped me overcome moments of weakness. And also it was helping both ways, because when I was not doing well in breaking scene, it was good that I had something different, this operatic sort of way of living, and that art form that I also could express myself in. And then at the same time, when I was not doing well with singing, I was coming back to my practice spot with my guys from my crew, and I could just kind of let it go there, and it was really really centering, centralizing. I don't know, like kind of bringing me to the center. Sorry, my English sometimes is ridiculous.
No,
Yeah,
no.
but like finding your own center and like keeping yourself with your thoughts, and kind of like it was literally like a therapy, to be breaking sometimes, because you are doing it with other people, but also you are going against your weaknesses all the time, fighting through things that you cannot do, and then suddenly you can do because you did so much work, and that actually helped build some bridges and strong foundations for, that sort of confidence that you have to have.
When you're stepping on the stage at the Met or the Royal Opera House, do you feel the history of the people who were there before? Do you feel the inheritance that you're sort of stepping into? What is that like for you?
I think I do, but it hits in different moments, and it's so funny and scary at the same time because, like I was working at the Met, for example, you have rehearsals for a month and a half, and then you have the premiere. And for the month and a half, I was just so honored and felt so good about being in rehearsal spaces where the most legendary singers are. But like I was calm. I was like, this is nice. This is beautiful. I'm super happy, proud of myself, and grateful, but I'm calm. And then suddenly, the day before the premiere, it hit me, and I was paralyzed. I was literally paralyzed because it got me that I will perform at the legendary Metropolitan Opera House, and the same was with Royal Opera House. And there are so many places which are quite legendary, and I still kind of cannot believe that, like, I am on that journey. I am flying around the world, performing in the most beautiful places, meeting so many great people. And of course, it has an impact on me to see that, like, for example, I am in Teatro Real singing a concert, and I see on the walls those programs and how many actually incredible artists have been here already. Like, they've been here for years performing in that place. And this is now my time to be here. And I feel super, super honored.
What in your life, your career has been your biggest leap of faith?
Oh wow, I don't know. Believing probably in my journey, because I cannot really point out any single event, because it was constantly a journey of different things happening in different places, which actually finally combined and made it all work. And that's why it's very difficult to say, like, okay, I won the Metropolitan competition and that made the whole thing. Or there is this famous video of me singing Vedrò col mio diletto in Festival d'Aix-en-Provence in shorts. And also a lot of people think that that made my career and that made everything. But it wouldn't go viral if I wasn't already studying in United States, singing in United States, doing all of those things in Europe. So like I was already on the map, and that's why it kind of got to different places. I think just believing and not giving up was the biggest sort of achievement of all of this, because even though I lost a lot of competitions and I was kicked out after the first round, after not being accepted at my university here in Warsaw, after not being accepted for many summer programs, after not being accepted at Curtis Institute of Music, not accepted at Juilliard, and a lot, like, there was constantly a fight for a place, constantly. And
Mm.
I overcame that because I believed in the journey and in the process. And I think that's the biggest aspect of all of that.
Mhm. On this season of the show, I'm exploring this idea of legacies and the things that we leave behind, how we impact people. And I wonder for you, what do you think your legacy is, or what do you think your legacy will be?
Oh my goodness, that's a very difficult question. I'm 33 years old. I don't think about legacies. I just, enjoy for now, and we will see how it's going to develop. Like every year, every sometimes month, there are new doors opening, and I really don't know which direction it's gonna go. So that's why it's difficult to say like what kind of legacy I might leave behind me. But what I usually say to people is just like, if you like something, really try to make it happen, because it costs a lot sometimes, and it really is a lot of there are a lot of sacrifices. But if you like it, you just have to try to make it work. Sometimes it's
Mm.
not easy, but sometimes at some point it becomes super nice and rewarding, satisfying, and easier.
Jacob, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. I know you're preparing for your touring, so I thank you for taking time and sharing some of your worldview, your music view, your life with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And to those of you who are watching or listening, remember, we all have a voice and we all will leave a legacy. Choose yours wisely. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you. Thank you.